this piece of wood I got yesterday while kayaking. My thought is there's a lot of really just wet dead wood on it. So if I can just come in and take all that dead wood away, I'll see what form is left afterwards. So since I'm camping, I've got to pack this heavy piece in the RV, I thought, well, for now I'm just going to take the axe and try to cut away some of this dead wet wood. So I've been taking all this dead wood out. You can see where lightning or something struck it. There's a lot of burnt wood in between. And it kind of is just coming off in layers. This whole thing may end up being hollowed out. There's already a hole there, which is fine because it's all soft, dead wood. It doesn't belong. So I've just been chiseling away. I mean, I think it started way out here. But better to use the chisel before, you know, otherwise you'd be sanding forever to get through all of this with the angle grinder, and you worry about your lungs and the mess it makes. So I just take away as much bulk with the chisel and the hammer. Still a lot of dead, dried wood on it. You can kind of tell what's the, you know, the dead or the fibrous wood. It's just a lot softer. And what I'm trying to do is just try to get it down to something that's really firm and hard. Okay, so I've been chiseling away at this piece of wood, getting it a lot thinner, a lot easier to work with when I go to grind it. One thing I want to point out is it used to have this really cool bridge going across, and I think that's what made it such a unique and beautiful piece. And my point is when you're woodworking, you really can't get too attached to any part of the wood, because at any time it could fall off. It could be very upsetting also. This I was not worried about. I think this piece of wood's still going to be kind of cool, and the reason I'm not upset about it is because basically it had to come off. Underneath it, this dry rot was. I am worried that I'm going to end up losing this whole piece here, because look at this, see all these little holes, and you know, there's still some soft areas even at the top. I have been working day after day on this piece, and I just keep running into more problems. This back here was all rotten, but it's hardwood on the outsides and you don't know it. But underneath I found one little pocket and carved out a whole section. And this front part here, this is all hardwood, but behind it is still soft. So there's a layer here that this is all going to have to come out. Back here, this is really hard to get off. I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be, but it is. I mean, part of it's just the angle. Now here's the bummer. This long piece that I've been working so hard at, it was all solid in here, trying to preserve that, because that's really what makes this whole thing pretty darn cool. It's what makes it look like Cathedral Rock in Sedona, that one tower. Well, it's not going to end up staying on. This section here that's holding it, all of this I have had to carve away, but it's still soft, and now look, it moves. It's not going to stay. So there's the zen in woodworking, is not getting attached, although it's hard not to get attached to something that you've been working on for so long. And maybe this whole piece will just be junk and I won't be able to use it. But I won't know until I keep spending more and more hours and days working on it. So I'm hoping that I'll have something from it. That's a lot of carving. And you know, without that long piece here, if I could still salvage the rest of it, I think it could still be pretty. I'll have some fenestrations in it, like that one, like that big, this big area here, like this in here, all this that I've had to carve out so far. And same thing with this piece. When all is said and done, unless this is solid down here, it may end up, whoop, there it goes right there. I didn't even notice that. Well, hey, that's a bummer. I didn't even see that. Here I've been carving away around it to try to see what would hold it. So now, yeah, I'm sure all of this will be gone. This here is hard, regular wood. But in here, it's all of this rotten stuff. So it's like they like to find little pockets and little planes they go through and eat away at it. That's all part of woodworking. So this might be our last glimpse of this beautiful piece here, hanging on for dear life. For the satisfaction of the video, here we go. Goodbye, my beautiful big piece. There is something very satisfying in whacking all that wood away. Too bad I didn't know it was going to break off ahead of time. It would have saved me days of work. I love woodworking, and if ever I'm at an art show or something and I see a woodworking booth, I'll stop and talk to the artist. And you know, one question I always have is, how do you get through all of that wood, you know, till you finally take away all the dead wood? And it was like a big secret. No one wanted to share that information with me. I don't know why. And I'm talking, you know, across the United States, not just in my area. So if I had to go up and question them, well, so all I knew was a little mouse sander, an orbital sander, or chisel, or the metal spoons. And until I ran into this girl, she was either with her brother or her husband or something, and she was carving these wooden blocks that she used for yoga. And finally, she's the one who told me, oh, you get something called an angle grinder. I'm like, oh, angle grinder, okay. She says, yeah, it gets right through the wood. So went and got this bad boy, and I mean, it's tough, like I said, it's a very tough tool. It's very aggressive. It's hard to hold on to. It vibrates, it's loud, it puts dust all over the place. But look how fast it gets through that wood. I mean, it's really quite amazing. And yes, I could use this starting at the very beginning, instead of all that hammer and chisel. But because of the dust, the mess it makes. The thing with the angle grinder, there is a learning curve to it. It's a really rough tool to use. It just wants to take off and you know, basically go on its own. So you really have to have a good hold of it, and it vibrates the heck out of your hands and your arms. You really can't sit for too long, otherwise you'll end up with really sore arms. When I was sanding the wood, I can clearly see what the good wood is, just with my naked eye, versus the very fibrous wood that still has to come off. So here's some nice wood all through here, and then I get to this area and in here, and that still is pretty much dry rot. So this will, you know, eventually probably be carved out or sanded out. I don't know how deep it's going to go. It could even be, you know, a whole V cut out here for all I know once I'm done. One of my favorite tools. I mean, it can just get down to the good wood pretty fast. And before I discovered this cool tool, I was sanding forever using like the 40 grit, 60 grit. A lot of this is still fibrous, which when I go to put my beeswax in, you'll notice the finish won't be very smooth. So that still needs a lot of work. But here it is so far. I mean, it's really pretty. Even if I lost this, and I lost part of this, I mean, is it still worth it to just be working with this side, which I know is all good wood? That's going to be pretty hard to get into to sand down, but we'll see. Another thing about using the angle grinder is that it has to be constantly moving on your piece. You don't want to just sit it there. For one, it'll basically dig a hole in the wood, but for two, it'll also burn the wood, and you'll have this really dark area that's hard to sand off once you get that on there. But what I want to show now is something I like to do. Since it takes so long to do a piece of wood, sometimes you just need a little something to just say, yeah, look how awesome it is. So I just spray a little water to bring out more of the color, what it's going to look like when it's finished. And that, when I put my beeswax, is pretty much going to have that look to it, which is pretty awesome. What I'm doing now, on the back side, I've got these big, deep holes. It's always very satisfying when I can move from one tool to the other. This piece started with an axe at a campground being used as a chisel. Then I came home and used different chisels to take away a big bulk of the wood. Then I moved to the angle grinder to bring it down even further. And now I'm at the orbital sander. So I started sanding this with the 60 grit sandpaper. I went all the way around it, both sides, and it is pretty smooth. It's pretty nice. So I'm going to now move up from the 60 to the 80. This piece is looking amazing, but I have this section in here. I don't know how I'm going to get that. Nothing's going to fit in there, sand or anything. So my only hope is using a rasp. I know it's going to be a lot of work. Just sandpaper and sand it. So I found a way to get into this groove, at least somewhat. And that's just using my Dremel, and I've got this wire brush on the end. So I first had this type of brush, and I was just, going head on like this with the Dremel. That seemed to do okay, but I can get a little bit more aggressive with this. It will, kind of fit in there at an angle like this, going in and out. Now I'm up to my mouth sander. Is my absolute favorite tool. As I said, I'm worried about breaking off. This isn't going to vibrate it like crazy, so it's a lot more gentle. Everything's sanded. I'm ready for my last step, and that is putting my beeswax finish on it. I made this myself, beeswax, so I shred it up, put it in the double boiler to melt it. This one I added both olive oil and avocado oil to it, probably a 3-to-1 mixture, 3 being the oil to 1 of the wax. I let it cool and harden, and then I just put on some gloves, and I just rub it in. I actually don't just place it on. I kind of massage it in and really just try to get it, deep in there. And then I get my hot gun. I turn this on, really penetrate it into the wood. I finished melting all the beeswax in, so now I flipped it over, and what I'm doing is I'm putting epoxy all on the bottom to seal the bottom. Once the wax is on, then you can play around with your creativity. So I had this hole. I'm so glad this piece didn't fall off. It's so cool. I put this round crystal ball in there. It's really kind of neat. What else do I have? Over here I have an agate stone. This looks just like a vase or a vase. You know, it actually curves around. It's quite beautiful.